Hello Chipsters, it's Gav and welcome to another one of my videos. We're catching up with whatever part it is on the Hornisse build. I can call it a build because it just came off a sprue. Now this is from the Flames of War game, Flames of War game, that's the word I was trying to use. It's made by a company called Battlefront in New Zealand. In fact, let's just pick this up and hope it doesn't slide off. It's a German tank hunter called the Hornisse. There was only about 20 plus of these Hornisses before Hitler changed the name to the Nashorn, which is German for rhinoceros or rhino, one of the two. Maybe not a thing because my hands are crinkling this up with a noise, sorry about that. So yeah, plastic, and I've tried to scratch build as much of an interior as I could with my humble modelling skills. You know, the full-on modelers out there will do a lot better than I could manage, but you know, it's looking good from a distance. The tarpaulins I've made too big really. You know, if I do another one or another type of vehicle at this scale, I shall really have to, you know, push myself to thin them down. I mean, they probably could be that big, you know, there could be a load of stuff that's shoved in the middle of them as well, just to keep everything intact. I haven't done any stowage on the inside yet. There's a few corners, nooks and crannies. I made some shells. I did show them. I'm going to have another go and just reduce the thickness of them because they seemed a bit overscale to me. Height wise they were fine, but they seemed a bit on the thick side. So I'm going to have another go before I show you those all painted up. But there'll be a couple of ready use rounds, I suppose you could call them. I know that these are the magazines. I did have a pointy stick, hang on a second. I have mentioned these before, but it's in case anybody just sees a video. These are where the rounds would go, like the ready use rounds, but I'm going to have a couple just standing up right ready to use, and there'll be a couple of empties out on the back. Now there's been a major change in theatre here. The only paint I had was this from the MIG ammo range, and it's the late war camo. Now I wanted my Nashorn to be in Italy, and I can't see why, if there were Nashorns still serving in Italy in the last 4 or 5 months of the war, that they wouldn't have the same camo as the originals. But I suppose that depended if they came out of the factory, because they have more of a yellowy, that more yellowy Dunkelgelb. So I've had to change. I didn't want to, no way did I want to go near the Eastern Front, so all my stuff from now on is from the Western Front in World War II. Italy, Normandy, North Africa, and obviously the Far East when I get around to stuff like that. But unless I show German vehicles maybe in the East, I haven't decided yet. But so I could have tried to make my own paint mix up, but I thought, no, I've got this other stuff that's out the bottle. Now the only problem I always have is with this MIG stuff is the green, the reed green. This is AK green, this one, the same RAL number, but it's slightly darker, and I put a couple of coats on. Now I wish now I had attempted to put it on with an airbrush, because I thinned the paint out and then thickened it in the middle and tried to thin it out near the edges to look like it had been sprayed on. I'm quite sure they wouldn't have always been sprayed on. I take it just depended on what, if you had a compressor or a brush handy type thing. So it's okay, I've sprayed some buff and some old wood to dust up the very base of the Hornisse, and obviously you can't see it now but it was all dusted up there as well, and I've put some chips in. I don't know if we're going to really see, to be honest with you, but there are chips in there somewhere, only tiny ones that I didn't want to go to. I put a few on the gun barrel a few around the edge of the hatches. Obviously it's had just see some here, and I put some lighter scratches on as well, but only very small amounts. I did try putting the odd bit of I can't really see any under there, it's all mud, but I did try and put some shadow tone from AK, which I was using, as you can see on the deck there, the fighting compartment. That's supposed to represent, there we go, that's supposed to represent primer, and then I've scratched it up as well all around the base. I've put a tiny bit of mud on, getting in and out of the vehicle. Oh, well, I didn't say, did I, after all that, where it was. It's operating, it's the same, I believe it's the same, and it's completely gone out my head. Is it 225th? But it's the heavy anti-tank mobile, whatever, anti-tank battalion. They were in Italy, I believe, if it's the same unit, but they were transferred to the west, further west, to take part in the attack into Alsace. Northwind was what you're after, Gav. Operation Northwind. It was to take pressure off the attack in the Ardennes, the famous Battle of the Bulge. That was starting to get turned around, and the Allies were pushing back. So Hitler came up with the idea, with Himmler commanding, of all people, to push down further. That there was a slight salient in Alsace, and to make a push down there, because he knew that the American 7th Army had spread itself extra thin to try and push units further up into the Bulge. And it was an idea of, well, if we can't hit them there, we'll hit them down there. But it just, although they did do some bits and pieces, as in villages and whatever, it was just a meat grinder really for the Germans. They lost a lot of equipment of my men, but a lot of equipment, like first class equipment like this, in the Bulge, and then lost even more in Operation Northwind. So yeah, I put so there's mud on the tracks. The reason I put well, obviously it was the time of year as well. Come on, Gav, turn it round. I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't fall off. It doesn't like this sticky stuff that I've stuck it on. Only because the tracks are really well detailed. They've got nice sag in them. You get the bolt details, but you don't get any, what I would call it, between the cleats of the tracks. There's no detail, if that makes sense. So I've made sure I've put mud in there. I'm wondering whether I put a bit of snow in there as well. The snow was on off as it wasn't up in the Ardennes, and this was still the hill country. So I may put a bit of snow, not cover it in snow or anything, but might put the odd bit in, and I might put some static grass. The only problem with static grass, it tends to show static grassy. So what I don't know yet. I've got some knot grass which is fairly decent, and when I overspray this with, it has had a VMS satin coat on. It doesn't look particularly much, but I could put another coat on. But I thought of putting some grass, in where it normally would be. I'm probably going to base it on this little base here, with a couple of figures I'm trying to make, just because I was starting to get into building I've drawn out a plan for a small house frontage again, and I thought, Gav, what you're doing, you really don't have time for this. So it'd probably just be on the flat base, just to give it some context. I painted a couple of 3 kill rings at that end. Bearing in mind this is for war games, so I wasn't expecting a huge amount from the decals. The decals have got a fair bit of carrier film on them, but it doesn't seem too bad under the varnish. It's not too flashy, I don't think. That's about it for that, really. All I can say. I'm really chuffed with this little project. It's as I say, I think it was about a £5, including the postage. If you buy a sprue off eBay, I'm probably going to put all the blooming sprues prices up now. But if you put the price up for a £5, you've got something that doesn't take no desk space up, not overly complicated. And if you want to do the bits that I've done, say on this, it's not overly hard. It's all just styrene, bits of bent copper wire, you know, a bit of lead wire, you know, obviously just bent styrene, just to give it some more context really. This will be, although it's supposed to be white, I'll black that out in the driver and co-driver's position. I probably won't put any more stowage on, because I've not seen a lot with stowage on the front panels. Take it for the driver to get in and out easier. I'd say things are simplified on it, but it's 15mm, you know, or 1 in 100 scale. So yeah, I think it's not looking too bad. No divisional signs on, which I'm happy about, because a lot didn't have them on. I'm hoping I got the numbers okay. I didn't look it up, I must admit. So that would be 2nd company, 1st platoon, 5th vehicle in the platoon. Because the decals come with, you don't get decals with a sprue, by the way. I paid £6. I was a bit annoyed with myself really, but I got two. The guy put well packed and two decals in with them, 2 decal sheets, and you get your sets of numbers, but only in black and white, none of the red ones or anything. And you get your Balkan crosses. No, I believe if you buy a box of these, they probably, and again I don't play the game, but they probably come with decals and divisional options if you wanted, you know, divisional decals. But you can also get those on, you know, people sell them off, just like the guy was selling these decals off. So, but I thought, I'm not trying to paint these on, they'll look naff, you know. I will go for the, you know, the decal option, and I've got plenty enough, you know, to be going on with. You really want to know about me little green men. Now these are still work in progress, as you can see. I'm giving these what they call it, those reversible jackets, you know, with the white, and they won't be wearing, they'll be having the camouflage side. Just start seeing on that. I've got to put faces on them, hands on them, hats on them, and then just work out a bit more thicknesses and stuff like that. And this guy's going to be he looks like he's just shot out the ground as some morphed green monster, but he's gonna, that's the basic. I find I'm easier working. That's my original, if you remember, some form of creature from the Black Lagoon, but this is the original. Sorry, no, I use green stuff is what I'm trying to say. I've tried the Magic Sculpt and that, and it just slides off these armatures. It's a pain in the buttocks. So what I do is I let it dry off and give it a chance to dry off after a couple of hours. These have been done on Saturday actually, and then I just keep adding little bits and smoothing it out with a clay shaper. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some faces on these guys in a minute. And I'm going to start more than a minute, and that's an armature. He's supposed to be holding his hand up to his radio, to his earpieces. Obviously it's one long thing, because it's going to be like these guys, you know, to be set. I'm just doing loads. I'm just keep practicing and practicing. I'll do some more two-legged standing figures. I did this guy, and he looked like he was doing star jumps. I didn't think about putting one leg in front of the other or whatever. It's just at the moment, it's just to get, rather than have some blob like this guy, he's just trying to refine it down. You know, as I say, just keep going until if it gets to the stage where this is being held back so much that it's all done, which, to be honest with you, apart from I'm just going to do a bit of pin washes, and then as far as I'm concerned, and a bit of static grass, maybe. I doubt I'll have any snow in any of the vehicle itself. I might just put a bit in the tracks every now and then, and then just do a little base just to say when it's on. So I can't go on for it, but it's the sculpting. I think I'm going to keep trying. I've found that I prefer using this aluminium wire. This is some type of jewellery or florist wire, I can't remember what. This guy was done using a florist wire, a plastic coated one, and it's just too thick. You can't bend it. Where these guys are a lot easier to manipulate. and get me tweezers and manipulate the arms and stuff. Yes, so far I'm only manipulating the arms into this pose, but we've got to start somewhere. So we keep going on those. It'll get there. As I said to you, there'll be a cut-off point, and I'll just say no. I don't think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to, if I can do the smaller scale, like the 15 mil, or the one in 72s, the 20 mils, and I'll just keep having a go every now and then until I might never get anywhere with it. It's only ever going to be for me. I'm not trying to do it as a commercial thing, but I wouldn't mind doing larger figures if I could do it. And yes, I could print these figures, or you can sometimes get, but half the time, all you ever see is fancy, like ZBrush type of stuff that haven't been printed out. And secondly, I just want the enjoyment of making my own figures and know I've done that, you know what I mean? Just like the person that's doing the original 3D printing files has the enjoyment of, getting all those lines to come into a person. I'm just like the old days. I'm quite happy pushing putty around until it resembles a sort of a figure. Right. Anyway, that's the progress we've got on the Hornisse. As I say, it's been a while since I've really enjoyed a modelling project, and it is a modelling project. It is a gaming piece, but you can. I'm only good enough to get it to this level. The full-on scale modelling guys could bring it to even a higher level than I've managed to do it. But just with a few bits of plastic, you can busy the fighting compartment up. The gun looks a lot better now. It's got its extra pieces on. Yes, they're basic shapes. I understand that, but just looking into it, it looks more the part than it ever did. In my opinion. And we've got the travelling lock down there. As I say, I'm just a bit disappointed with myself. I didn't realise how to make circles with wire. Just didn't occur to me just to wrap them around something and then cut them and glue them. Oh well. But so I just cut a disc off, and it doesn't look particularly great. That's that wheel. It's supposed to be a wheel there, because this comes up and keeps the gun in a travelling lock. Although I thought it would have been locked in place with this. But anyway, I digress. So there we go. But even the machine gun, that was the other thing. The machine gun ammo tins from this distance, they don't look too bad. I've painted a black line and painted it was a black grey line as a divider to show, although it's one piece, to show two boxes. And I painted a black line first, and then another. It's not Dunkelgelb, is it? It's whatever sand colour I'd got really, but. And then just I didn't put any. What I'm trying to say is, I just used like one of them trompe-l'oeil effects, that just as in a paint effect. There's no handle being stuck to it, but it does the job for for a first attempt. It looks like it's supposed to be the MG for the ammo for this MG42. So thank you very much. There's a couple of photographs at the end. So I'll definitely make a little base for it. Hopefully these little blobs will progress, even if it's not these ones. Some little blobs in the next week or two will progress into a formed figure. If not, I'll bite the bullet, spend me I think it's about £7 for a sprue, which I didn't really want to spend, but get a sprue like Plastic Soldier Company or something, do them with Tank Crew, and I can always snip the arms, move them around and get them to fit these two hatches. But I would like, if possible, to make, even if I can't make a decent standing figure, even if I can just do two crew figures on the simplest poses, as in just waist and arms spread out, to go in there, and to add to the 3 crew that I'll start painting soon for the back. So thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look. I'll say thoroughly recommended little projects. If you've got a you want to do a military subject, but you don't want to buy anything bigger. They don't even come in a box. They do if you buy a box of them, but I doubt you're going to want to buy 4 Hornisses. But if you buy a sprue, it's a sprue. You know what I mean? It's you get a few spares, because often they'll give you several options in the game to Like I say, I've got a Grant stroke Lee tank for the desert, or you could use it for Burma, Tunisia, you know, American or British, whatever. You know, and they'll have different variations for that. And then when it comes down to, I think open vehicles are a lot easier to add bits to, like the Grant. I'm trying to see what I can do with that. It seemed a good idea at the time, but it's just trying to find, you know, I get the enjoyment out of creating extra pieces for it. That's what I enjoy doing. You know, that's the big pull for me on these little things. You know, for, as I say, that they're inexpensive, and for the price, the enjoyment you get back in your time is immense. So anyway, thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look, and we will catch each other very soon on another video.